Weddings are meant to be celebrations, moments of love, laughter, and new beginnings. But in Bangkok, there is a hotel ballroom where the music fell silent decades ago. They say the bride never left her banquet. And if you listen closely at night, you may still hear her waiting. In the heart of Bangkok stands a grand hotel, one of the city's oldest and most prestigious establishments. Its exterior gleams with polished stone. Its marble floors echo the footsteps of diplomats, celebrities, and royalty who once walked its halls. But behind the chandeliers and polished silverware lies a darker story, one whispered among staff and ignored in official brochures. The ballroom was the crown jewel of the hotel, a space draped in silk curtains, with towering mirrors and chandeliers that glittered like constellations. Weddings held here were spoken of for years afterward, remembered as the height of elegance. Families fought to book the hall, believing that starting a marriage in such luxury meant blessings of wealth and success. But over time, its reputation changed. Guests began to say the ballroom carried a strange heaviness, as though joy could not linger long. Waiters avoided setting tables late at night. Musicians felt uneasy when rehearsing alone. Brides complained of a perfume in the air, not their own, and of catching glimpses of a figure in white that wasn't in their party. The hotel never confirmed the story, but whispers carried from bellboys to guests. One wedding, decades ago, ended in tragedy. A wedding so cursed that the bride herself never left. Some claim she is seen still, drifting between the tables in her wedding dress, veil trailing against the polished floors. Others insist she waits by the mirrors, her face blurred, her figure luminous, as though she is caught between reflection and reality. And though the hotel denies it, bookings for the ballroom dwindled, its once glorious name replaced by unease. In a city full of light and noise, the Grand Hotel Ballroom sits quietly. At night, they say, the music still plays, but the celebration belongs to only one bride. The story begins in the 1960s, when the hotel was at the peak of its prestige. A wedding was announced between two wealthy families, a match celebrated not only for love, but for the power it represented. The bride was young, elegant, admired by all who knew her. The groom, dashing and educated abroad, was seen as the perfect partner. The wedding banquet was prepared to be the most extravagant the city had ever seen. Hundreds of guests filled the ballroom that evening. Tables glowed with candles, dishes of steaming delicacies filled the air with fragrance, and an orchestra played in the corner, strings weaving through the chatter. The bride walked in, her dress glittering under the chandeliers. Those who saw her said she seemed almost unreal, radiant, glowing, every step a picture of grace. But as the ceremony began, something shifted. Witnesses later recalled the groom appearing pale, his smile forced. Some whispered he had argued with his family earlier that day. Others said he was unwell but refused to cancel. Whatever the reason, before the banquet ended, tragedy struck. The groom collapsed suddenly, falling across the table. The music stopped. The guests screamed, and chaos rippled through the hall. Doctors rushed forward, but within minutes, he was gone. Some claimed his drink had been poisoned. Others insisted his heart simply failed. No answer was ever agreed upon. The bride fainted in shock, her veil pooling across the marble floor. Some say she never awoke from that faint, her spirit slipping away in the ballroom itself. Others claim she awoke days later but wandered the halls, whispering that she was still waiting for her husband to return. The banquet ended in silence. Plates of untouched food grew cold, garlands wilted, and the chandeliers dimmed. No wedding was ever held in that ballroom with such grandeur again. And yet, they say the bride never left, forever frozen in the moment her future was stolen. After that cursed wedding, the ballroom's reputation changed. Though the hotel continued to host events, staff began noticing unsettling signs whenever the hall was prepared for a wedding. Banquet tables, carefully arranged the night before, would be found shifted in the morning, as though set for a feast no one had ordered. Cutlery lay slightly askew, as if hands had brushed against them. Flowers meant for centerpieces withered faster in that room than anywhere else in the hotel. Then came the sounds. At night, cleaners reported faint strains of music drifting through the closed doors, soft waltzes echoing as though the orchestra still played. Sometimes, the clinking of glasses could be heard, faint laughter drifting in the air. But when the doors were opened, the room stood silent, the chandeliers unlit. More than one cleaner swore they saw her, a woman in a white gown walking slowly past the mirrors, her veil trailing. One said her reflection lingered half a second longer than her body, a ghostly echo caught in the glass. Another insisted she saw the bride seated alone at the head table, her head bowed, her hands folded neatly in her lap, waiting. Even musicians who rehearsed in the ballroom refused to stay long. A pianist once claimed that as he played, a second set of hands joined him on the keys, invisible but perfectly in time. He left mid-performance and never returned. The staff whispered that the bride was not vengeful, but she was present. Her perfume, jasmine and powder, clung to the air no matter how many times the hall was cleaned. To some, it was almost comforting. To others, it was unbearable, a reminder that the room belonged to her, and her alone. The whispers grew. No matter how many weddings were held afterward, they were not the true celebration. The true banquet was still ongoing for the bride who never left. The stories are not limited to staff. Guests who stayed at the hotel reported their own encounters, especially couples visiting for anniversaries or honeymoons. One pair recounted returning late from dinner to find the ballroom doors ajar. Curious, they peeked inside and saw tables lit with candles, plates gleaming, and faint figures moving as though a wedding were still in progress. The bride stood at the center, veil draped across her shoulders. But when the couple blinked, the lights vanished, the room bare once more. Another couple posed for photos in the lobby, with the grand staircase behind them. When the pictures were developed, a woman in white appeared faintly on the landing. Her face was blurred, but her veil shimmered. The bride of the banquet had joined them, forever in the frame. Some say she seeks couples deliberately, as though drawn to their love, desperate to share in what she lost. Guests have heard sobbing in the ballroom, the sound of a woman's voice whispering, "Please, stay." Others describe feeling a cold hand brush against theirs when they walked too close to the hall. One groom, celebrating his first anniversary, claimed he woke in the middle of the night to find his wife standing by the window, still asleep. When he touched her shoulder, she turned, and it was not his wife's face he saw, but the bride's. Pale, smiling faintly, before fading into the curtains. For those who experience her presence, the feeling is the same: sorrow, longing, and an overwhelming sense of unfinished business. The bride does not harm, but she lingers, watching, waiting, always waiting. Ask the hotel staff directly, and they will deny everything. But listen carefully, and you will hear their warnings in the silences between words. One banquet manager admitted quietly that no wedding in the ballroom has ever gone smoothly since the 1960s tragedy. Flowers arrived wilted, lights flickered inexplicably, dishes spoiled hours before serving. Photographers complained of blurred frames, always near the head table. And couples reported sudden illnesses, arguments, or even cancellations at the last moment. A waiter confessed he once heard a soft voice behind him whispering his name while he set the tables alone. When he turned, the hall was empty. Another swore he glimpsed a figure seated among the guests during a dinner service, though no one else noticed. He would not return to that room, even during the day. Some staff believe the bride claims the ballroom as her own. Every wedding here, one whispered, is still hers. We are only guests. Others think she is simply searching for her groom, hoping one day he will walk through the door. Whatever the truth, the warnings remain the same. Never stay in the ballroom after midnight, never leave food unattended, and never speak the bride's name aloud inside. Even today, the ballroom is used sparingly. When it is, staff hurry their work, avoiding mirrors and refusing to linger. Guests who ask about the legend are brushed off with polite smiles, but behind closed doors, the staff trade stories freely. They say the chandeliers sway when no one walks below them. They say her footsteps echo even when the hall is locked. And they say that if you see her reflection in the mirrors, you must never look back, for she will be standing behind you. The story of the bride who never left her banquet is more than just a ghost tale. It is a story of love stolen, of celebration turned to sorrow, of a life cut short at the very moment it was meant to begin. Unlike vengeful spirits of folklore, she is not feared as violent. Instead, she is remembered as tragic, a figure bound to her wedding gown, her banquet, her moment of promise that never became reality. Guests who encounter her often describe not terror, but sadness, a heavy sorrow that lingers even after they leave the hotel. It is said she lingers because no one ever told her the wedding was over. She is still waiting for the music to start again, waiting for the groom to rise and take her hand, waiting for her new life to begin. The hotel tries to bury the story beneath its glossy brochures and smiling staff. But those who have stayed long enough, those who have dared to walk the corridors at night, know better. They have heard the faint strains of a waltz when the hall was empty. They have seen candles flicker where no table was set. They have felt the perfume of jasmine and powder in the air, though no bride stood nearby. So the ballroom remains, quiet but not empty. And the bride remains too, dressed forever in white, walking endlessly among tables that no longer exist, greeting guests who cannot see her, waiting for a groom who will never arrive. And now, the question is yours. Would you dare step into that ballroom at midnight? Would you stand among the mirrors and listen for her footsteps? Would you be brave enough to tell her the truth, that the banquet has ended and she is alone? Or would you, like so many before you, leave the doors closed and the lights off, allowing her to wait forever in silence?